Alex, can you say something real quick so I can?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, I can hear you. Hi, happy Monday.
Hi.
Okay, I am back.
No problem. All right, guys. We
Happy
have
Monday.
happy Monday. It was so quiet last Friday. I know you weren't here on for a very, very good reason, Lewis. But I do want to actually put a little bit of an emphasis because it is so important. If no other event is attended, not that Mondays are not great. We love Mondays. The Monday calls are phenomenal. We're going to get motivated and we're going to make sure that we're looking at the things that we need to be looking at, and we're going to be tabulating the things that we need to tabulate. We're going to be taking all of the numbers and making sense of them on Mondays. And then Tuesdays and Wednesdays, I know are just office hours, so it's not that important. It's if you guys need help, if you need feedback, if you need anything. But Mondays and Fridays, super important. So if you can try to not schedule things over it, I get life happens. But if you can try to not schedule other meetings over it, your pipeline and the way that we set off the week, really, really important, especially from a forecasting specific scenario.
What time? I'm sorry, Alex, what time is the Friday meeting?
Or I'm sorry, not Friday, Thursday. Listen to what I
Okay,
mean, not what I say.
okay,
So
okay.
Thursday.
Right. That's what, okay,
So
it is a Thursday. Okay.
it's Thursday. So it's an hour after this one because we want to make sure that you guys have enough time to update your pipeline, update your forecast, make sure that your numbers are right, make sure that your next steps are all filled in. And I am not your actual manager, so I'm not babysitting the numbers, but I need everybody on the call to really act like this is accountable. And I want somebody to have these numbers. If you want to send them in to us, we will absolutely keep them in a folder for you so we can start tracking trajectory. That's not a problem. In fact, I would love to do that because I'd love to start seeing how things close and we can start seeing your conversion rate. But I just want to say that the Thursday calls, really, really important, as well as the Monday calls. So
Yeah, I think for us, we're going to assign because I'm going to probably stick with being here on Monday, and then Sierra is going to be with you. Sierra or Angela will be there with you on Thursday because she was, I think, we were trying to tag team today, but I think it's just too much. So
yeah.
I'm gonna stick, at least that's what we're thinking, is doing that like that. So,
As long as you have a representative, for
yeah,
sure.
thanks for the
And
reminder. Yeah, because I was getting
absolutely.
confused with the office hours. I'm like, oh, I can't do Monday through Thursday
No,
every day. But I think that the Thursday is, you said 1 o'clock, right?
I believe so for you, yeah. Because
Because we've got a
for us,
standing
it's
meeting in the morning
3.
that we've got that goes for like almost 2 hours.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh, that's fun.
That's another story.
Oh, goody. Well,
yeah.
and that gives that sort of leads us into where I wanted to talk today, which is perfect, right? So, Brian, nice to see you again as well. I know that you had some meetings going on. So we want to make sure that we are spending the appropriate amount of time on items that are going to push your business forward, right? And I know that everybody on this call is in some way affiliated with sales, right? Whether you are rolling up to us as your actual managers, or if you're accountable to yourself or your CEO, or you're a one-man band, or you're a small team and you all touch sales, we want to start talking about the goals that we're setting and the time allotment that is the best, most purposeful use of your time. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So before I jump into that, because it's a lot, right? And it's going to be a very high level, but we're going to have a good discussion about how to really start off the week in the right way so that you guys can nail this upcoming week and we can start prioritizing and start putting the emphasis behind the right syllable. How was everybody's weekend? Uh-oh,
It was
I gotta,
good. Trying to
okay.
think of what I did.
If you can't remember, that's a great weekend right there. That sounds great. Let's do that.
Mine was great. Thank you. And you guys?
It's okay. It's okay. Lot going
Mine was phenomenal. I found the greatest little place to get pumpkins, and I am never doing it another way again because I found of all places, I found a bougie pumpkin place. So I walk in, they give me champagne. They walk me over to this is phenomenal. They walk me over to this dock where you have like a hayride and you can bring your little kids up on the hayride and they can play and they can go insane. And they crowd control it so you don't have a bunch of people all the way around you. It was next level pumpkin patching. I've never done this in my life. It was phenomenal. So I was so
funny. You're in
excited.
Florida, right?
I'm in Florida. Yeah, I didn't even
but
know they had pumpkins here, but they do.
that's what I was gonna say. We have pumpkins patches all over the place, but I would not have thought of it in Florida. So that's pretty funny.
So we had a Napa style pumpkin patch. It was great. You guys would be very proud of me over there in California. So what I wanted to do though is I wanted to talk about your time and the being intentional with it, right? So it's going to be a little bit more fluffy than it normally is on my Mondays because I want to really address it, and I think that it's really important that we address it. But but Stacy said fill me in later, but where? It was really cool. Okay, so we need to really start being deliberate about where we are choosing to spend time and our attention, especially when we are all driving sales. So we need to do 3 things. We need to be very deliberate. We need to know the result we want, which is all about those targets that we were setting for end of year. Which, did everybody here get their targets set for the last quarter? No?
I think so.
Yes, we have a yes, and we have a no. Brian?
Maybe.
Are you my tiebreaker? I hear laughing. I hear laughter. Okay. So did we set a goal that we could at least take to our CEO to get a sign off on? I'm hearing crickets. So I'm going to go with a no on that. So that's something that, I'm sorry?
I mean, kind of, I mean, you know, because I have to go to myself, which is a whole,
Well, but that's important. You should be able to do that.
But, and I think we talked about it here. I think I was wanting to hit 50,000 a month within a year, you know. I definitely got to ramp up from where I'm
Mhm.
at. And I think if I were to systematize what I'm kind of naturally doing, it would probably be more effective, because I don't know, it seems like every day is different, and so I'll wake up one day and say, oh, I'm going to reach out to every accounting firm that has 10 plus employees here in Boise, and then I get a hold of, or I try to reach one, and then I get called away to do something else, and then the next day it's like, oh wait, no, I'm going to do this, right? So it's a little bit
Yeah. And
organized.
it's that prioritization of time. And I know you're getting pulled in 3 different directions with home stuff and running the company and doing the things. And I think this is something that a lot of people, not just in sales, but CEOs in general, and business owners and department heads, we all deal with this. We all deal with people taking our attention, right? And it's sort of that shiny, it's the shiny object syndrome, where if it's
Oh, yeah.
shiny or loud, that's where we go, right?
Mhm.
And we don't always come back to where we should be. And I am just as guilty of this as the next guy. You can ask Mick. He's on the call right here, looking very nice. I may add, in that blazer. That's lovely. But getting my attention can be an act of just horrendous duty. Like he will go and he'll be like, hey, pay attention. And until he's loud,
Mhm.
it's hard for me to pay attention. So it's not.
I had to send a Raven once.
He did. He had to send a Raven. It didn't work out well for him, but he did send it. So when we're talking about getting pulled in these different directions, it's all about prioritization of where your attention needs to be. And so it's using your time purposely and blocking out your schedule. And I know that sounds easier than it is, because I know how hard it is when we get pulled and the next thing pops up, and then there's an emergency, and then we have to address this, and oh my gosh, somebody's talking about their pay, and oh my gosh, somebody's talking about this, and we're not focused on driving the business forward, right?
Right.
And this goes for you, Brian, too, because you've got all these other things, like I got to follow up on my SDR. I got to see where she's going. I got to see where the leads are. I got to go to this next event. I have to, all of these things. And it's the logistics behind it, because you're a one-man band, right? So what I want you to do is I want you to take an activity this week, and I want you to go over your calendar. I want you to see where you're being deliberate with your time. And some of you might be really good at this and you're actually blocking out your calendar. But do you remember when you guys were in school, and I'm talking like middle school, and you would go, and English class was an hour and 20 minutes, and the bell would ring, and then you went to math, and the bell would ring, and then you would have some sort of special, and then it would ring, and you would go to lunch. And it was these blocks. Now, you didn't necessarily know what you were going to do in English class, but you knew that that's what you were focused on for an hour and 20 minutes. Do you guys do this right now or no?
No, but it's a great idea.
It
I
works.
have attempted to do it, not very successfully.
Okay.
I've done it to some degree, like with billing and with primarily like billing and HR and payrolls type stuff. It's like, okay, that's on a Thursday. And I'm writing checks Thursday, they're going out, or doing the online billing for Friday. I'm still having trouble with today, actually Monday is supposed to be my program day, like work on the business sort of day, but it typically ends up not being that. And so
And you're getting derailed.
I'm getting derailed for one reason or another. And I also really want my, people to do it too, to have it, because I feel like they're kind of unfortunately following my bad example of, just getting like, okay, what's the next fire? What's the next fire? Rather than like, okay, we just had a conversation this morning. Like one of my guys who's been with me for years, it's like, if he just spends an hour, 3 days a week, doing the follow-up calls, I mean, every time he makes those outgoing calls, he's had success. But he's like, yeah. So, but again, typically he gets derailed and will focus on whatever the shiny penny for that morning is. So it's like, how do you emphasize, or how to enforce that? I'm not really good at enforcing it on myself, let alone for them. So how do we do that?
Sure. So that's And thank you, because that's super vulnerable to even say that, especially when you're running a company and you're like, oh my God, it's my fault, right?
I'm ADD. I mean, I admit, I know I'm total ADD, you know, and but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, but you know what? What I've found is most successful salespeople and most successful CEOs are a little bit, whether it's undiagnosed or something, we go squirrel, right? So I have had to get incredibly organized, not because I am an incredibly organized person. I have literally had to block out my calendar like this. And when I saw the fall off on Thursday, it wasn't that you guys aren't engaged. It's that I know what happened, right? And it happened on all of you. And I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, do I go over forecast or pipeline on Monday and say we do a redo? And it wasn't that. It was, let's prioritize our time. Let's see where our most meaningful relationships are and where we need to block out time for ourselves and our people and our sales reps and the activities that we're going to do. So Pam, I'm putting you on the spot because you just said it and you were vulnerable. So thank you. And you get to do it again. So,
and I will say, I will apologize because I mean, my, for the Thursday thing, because in my mind, I'm like Monday. And so I was kind of counting on them, the two of them, like tag teaming it. So I kind of like let that go. And then all of a sudden, when I saw your email, we are like, oh no, you know, none of us went, and all.
I know everybody got a tisk from me on the
Yeah.
on
No,
Thursday.
it's good. It's good. So go ahead.
So here's what I'm going to ask you. Your guy who gets pulled away, and I think I already know the answer for you too, right? So you set your day. This is your Monday to do these things and work on the business, not in the business. Is it on your calendar that that's what you're doing?
On my calendar, it's on my calendar. I mean, I have like focused time. I have all that like blocked out, you know, in a couple of different segments. And so for instance, like Tuesday through Thursday are supposed to be primarily client calls. And so we do have it blocked out, but you know, we made exceptions. If someone says, oh, you know, I can only meet you on a Friday, then I made an exception, or, you know, like for vendor calls, like on a Wednesday. So we have to have this conversation. But I know it's really, I'm doing it, and that's not saying much. I'm doing it more than they are, you know, because again, I'm doing my best to try to stay out of the fray, but not always successfully.
May I make a random suggestion?
Sure, that's why I'm here.
Okay, all right. Don't block off your whole day saying, or this whole 3 hour, like this is what I'm doing for 3 hours. It's impossible. You will never get 3 hours or even 2 hours where you can focus completely. But if you give yourself 30 to an hour chunk where you have a meeting where you are not available, and this is what you focus on, and you assign it, you say, okay, I'm working on the business. I'm doing my offerings today, right? That's what you focus on in that 45-minute or that hour and 20, whatever you can give yourself. That's not going to be 2 to 3 hours, because frankly, no meeting goes 2 or 3 hours anyways. I wouldn't be able to focus. And if anybody has as much squirrelitis as I do, there's no way you'd be able to focus for 2 to 3 hours. And then something is going to come up, right? Somebody is going to be able to say, hey, can I have this? And then you make an exception. Instead, you don't make the exception, you move things, right? You can exchange it, but it's a lot easier to exchange an hour, like an hour block with a 30-minute meeting. You can split that, that's fine. But moving 3 hour blocks is absolutely impossible. And then what you end up doing is just walking away from it because, oh, well, you had that 30-minute meeting and now you're completely derailed.
Right. No, that's a good point. Not making them so big, because I know again we tried putting on some larger blocks and it just doesn't.
It'll never work. So my challenge to everybody on this call is I want you guys to set up your day like you're in middle school. We're going to do the first the first block of time is you're going to check your emails, you're going to check your phone calls. I know this is getting real in the weeds and back to basics, but it's being very deliberate about your energy and your intention. Because if you're going to be successful and you're going to be moving your business forward, then you need to understand that the rest of your day has to be on plan, because you guys are doing way too much to not have 15 minutes for yourself. And you need to be able to take those personal calls. You need to be able to adjust.
I have a question for you, Alex, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, because we were just talking about this, like, would the time frame of like the 10, because it was again, we were just talking about this morning, like 9 to 10, you know, like you said, check the emails, and 10 let's just say 10 to 11 or 11:30 be like those outgoing, like this kind of sales activity? Do you think that's, or outgoing calls, or doing those, is that a
How
good?
how granular do you want me to get on this? Because I think you're spending if you're spending a whole hour on emails, you're doing it wrong.
Okay.
Okay. So there is no way, even on a Monday, unless you're doing so much business and you just had an influx on 78 orders. And oh, by the way, you're an MSP and you had 17 crashes at the same time, right? So now you've got, you know, 38 or so emails. Even at that, it wouldn't take you an hour to check that.
Okay.
Now, checking them does not mean handling all of them, right? We
Right.
want to check them and we want to prioritize. So you're going to check your emails and you're going to delete all the trash. You're going to forward everything. I've been trying desperately to get to a 0 inbox. It's never going to happen, but I try. So, so what I have is I have an action item. I go over everything I'm going to do in the first 15 minutes. And then I can start prioritizing my day. The second block I have after that 15 minutes is I get my coffee, because I don't know about you all, but I'm obsessed and I need it. So it's kind of important. And so once I get my coffee, I then have my other block, and that is going to be my prioritized, needs to happen right away. From
Where
there,
do you keep your action list? Do you keep it in your, do you have a separate action list, or do you have it just in your, what do you do with that?
So my, my action list, hold please. I actually have a blank one right here. Can you see this?
Uh-huh.
Got a little daily planner. I have all my actions right there. And I've got all my supplementals right here. I've got my notes right there. And then everything else goes in HubSpot. So I have my HubSpot, I have my calendar, and I've got my little action list. And I know that that's very old school, but it keeps me super, super organized. And then what you see on that list, because I'm planning for the next day, I put my top priorities. I do not let it go past 3, because there's only so many things you can get done in a day. And what people fail to realize is that you're going to get real, like you're going to, you know, when you go to a restaurant, and you order so much because your eyes are bigger than your stomach. That's how people act about days, right? They think they can get so much done in a day, and they overthink what they can accomplish in one day.
That's a great point.
And then they underthink what they can accomplish in a quarter. So my goal is to get as much done in a quarter, as long as it's based on my goals and my target, as humanly possible. But I'm kinder to myself on a day-to-day, because I'm planning it out accordingly. So if I could just put those 3 priorities for the following day of where my attention needs to go, then you're there. Then you've got that time for emails. It's only 15 minutes. And you put down what needs to be addressed on your notes, and that's your first priority. Then you can do your meetings. Then you have your day scheduled and it's fine, but then you've blocked off an hour and a half or 2 hours to bang on the phones, move business forward, depending on what role of sales you have or what role of business you have. I mean, Lewis, for you, some of that day is going to be eaten up, especially you and Brian, actually. Some of your day is going to be eaten up just on prospecting alone and figuring out where to go. Right.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so that to me is, you figure out half an hour once a month, you get your list of networking events that you're going to go to. I'm not saying that other things aren't going to pop up, but you get your calendar and you figure out your weeks, and you go to 2 or 3 of those events every week while you're canvassing, and you make it possible to hit everything that you need to, but you're not going so squirrel trying to figure out, where do I need to go next? Where do I need to go next? Because if you look at your calendar and you've got your entire month already planned, it's fine if one pops up. Like, I know that I've got a networking event on Thursdays that I will either go to, or I will send one of my team to every Thursday, because it's a tech hub. Of course, we're going to be there. Even if we don't get any business there, we're going to be there because they're going to give us business later.
Right. Now, the other thing that I find I'm spending a decent amount of time on is doing these one-to-ones, which, now that I'm up here, people actually meet face to face, which is really cool. But it's
Your day.
What's that?
It eats up your day.
It eats up the day, and then I mean, I'm having to get more precise about it, especially because, you know, we're meeting twice a week, presumably, you know, when my mom's not falling out of bed. But right, so and this meeting occurs either like noon my time or 2 p.m. So kind of right in the middle of the day. So but I get what you're saying, because I think it just takes a little bit of intent, to just organize it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Uh,
And it's using your time purposefully too. So think about this, right? If you're what I might do if I were you, because you do have a lot of in-person meetings,
mhm.
I would try to schedule those if you can, right? Because you already know kind of those networking meetings that you're already going to be going to.
Right.
If you can stack your one-to-ones, if they're going to be in person, if they have to be in person, if you could stack your one-to-ones to be at the tail end of those networking meetings, you're already out. You can do it, you can get done, and then you can get back to where you need to go. Or you can work from a remote location, but at least it's all there and it's just extending what you're doing already out just a little bit so that you have the quality time that they want, but you're also not eating it out. I also might suggest that you are, while I do like in-person meetings, potentially you might be giving too much of yourself, or they are customers. And I'm all about networking. I'm all about meeting people for lunch. I try to do it once a week, with somebody that I have never met before. And I actually got that from a coach that I used to work with. And this has nothing to do with sales or moving business forward. It's just about being a good human, being good at business. Right. And I really make an effort to meet with somebody that I don't regularly meet with once a week, whether it's a coffee, a lunch, just grabbing a drink, something. It gets me out of my headspace. It gets me out of the office. And it also helps to offer, hey, how can I help you? And how, I'm not even looking for how they can help me, but how can I help you? How can I be of service? And it tends to lead to dividends for me. Now, I'm not saying you have to do it that way, but I am saying that I think maybe you are a little too giving sometimes with your time.
Okay. As a kind of follow up to that, and stop me if I go too far afield, but
You're going too far. I'm joking. You're fine.
Come on. So there's an old club in this town called the Arid Club. I met one of the
Called the what?
Arid, ARID. Arid.
That's what I thought you said. Okay.
Yeah. Established 1890. I met like the marketing person at a chamber event. I went and toured the club, and it's like one of these like old school, social business clubs. Like the governor goes there, probably the mayor, like all the, the old wealth families. And I would assume that a lot of business takes place there, and you can make some good connections. I mean, are those kind of clubs, are they a good use of time, if you don't get sucked into too many shiny objects in the process?
It could, it very well could be, you're the one that's going to have to judge that. I'm not there to actually meet with them and gauge that. But if you get something out of it, if you find it beneficial and you find that you can add value to those relationships and they may potentially add value to yours, there's no reason not to, but that might be your one a week. Right. So
Right.
then, right. So then so you're not going far afield, because you're actually leading me right to my next point, which is being very deliberate and being mindful of your most meaningful relationships. Now, until you test it, you may not know, right? You may not know that that's the most meaningful relationship, and you may not know that it's not the most meaningful relationship, but you got to try and you got to start somewhere. So I'm not saying you go somewhere and it's what have you done for me lately? Right? That's not what I'm saying.
I get it.
Yeah. But if you are finding, and this goes for your customers too, because some of your customers will be a time suck. And sometimes it's because they're out of scope, and sometimes it's not. And sometimes you're just trying to be a good, like, because you care, right? I just did an interview with Matt Solomon over at Channel Program, and we were talking about how sometimes we as service providers, we care so much that we want to go above and beyond, but then we give so much of our time that we don't make those specific delineations. And even on my team, right? We have Dean, who you guys have met. He gives so much of his time, and I'm like, wait, are these clients really taking this much time? And he's like, well, not really. I'm just sort of giving it. And I'm like, okay, we need to have a little conversation, right? We got to roll it back. Let's be mindful of those meaningful relationships, and let's talk about where the best use of our time is, so that when we are blocking out those calendars and we are saying, okay, I've got 2 hours for oh shit moments, right? Because there's always going to be an oh shit moment. There's always going to be something that is an emergency that comes up that you can't account for, or there's always going to be that networking thing that you want to go to that you didn't know about until 2 minutes ago, and somebody said, hey, get in your car and go. That stuff happens. And so you want to be mindful of it, and you want to be available for it, but you also need to make sure that you are blocking your time effectively. Would it be helpful for you guys to actually see a sample of some of my calendar blocking sometimes? And you'll cry, because you'll see like how many meetings I have a day. And like, look at Nick, he's like, but I will tell you, that doesn't mean I'm available. It just means that I'm busy. But I'm busy with intentional activities. So you may see 20 minutes where I'm not available, but it's where I'm getting things done, or I'm writing the content for this, or I am saying, okay, they're not responding to this, and I think I know why. Let me revisit this, and I'll schedule that time in my calendar so it's done. So if that would help you, I may actually just create a sample of a decent schedule blocking, so that you see that it's not 3 hours here, 4 hours there, but it's things where if you have, do you guys use Microsoft Outlook calendar?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can literally take those blocks, move it around. It's not like it has to be set in stone, but at least the blocking is there, and you can rearrange as needed.
Also, Alex, the one that you just showed up, it was like the priorities for the day, like just like a block of like 10 things that your priorities were. What was on the other side of it?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I have my top priorities. So those are my top 3.
Mhm.
Then I've got what's coming on for tomorrow, so that I know that it's a thing that I have to do, but I don't have to worry about it right now.
Okay.
Which is really like, it's helpful, because sometimes you just need to like brain dump, and you know this is a tomorrow issue, but you just want it written down somewhere, or else you're going to lose your mind.
Mhm.
That helps a lot. Then I have my little don't forgets, because again, in list of priority, I don't have to do it tomorrow, but I just need eyes on it.
Okay. Yeah,
And
if you
then
don't mind just like putting, I don't know if you have a picture of it or take a screenshot
I
of it.
do.
Just like,
Yep,
just gonna,
absolutely. I'll
because I thought, like you said about going old school, and I'm like, I always feel guilty when I'm still putting it on paper instead of putting it, but I'm like, sometimes I'm just a very visual person. Unless it's like right in front of me like that, unless I'm having to click around, it sometimes gets lost like that. So thank you.
Yeah. And it works really well, because by the end of the night, I can now put everything in HubSpot or my calendar for the next day. My planning is done. I feel like I'm under control, and I'm not like hyperventilating at 12 o'clock at night thinking, oh, shoot, I forgot something.
Right.
And so if you guys have that ever, this is what we eliminate, because in order for us to move business forward, set goals, and have enough time for those calls that your guy needs to be making 1 hour a day, maybe it's not 1 hour a day, maybe it's a half hour. He just needs to make 3 calls.
Right.
Because right now he's not even making the 3 calls.
Right.
Let's get him making the 3 calls.
Yeah.
And that needs to be his priority. So maybe he checks his email, and then he does what he needs to do, and he blocks the time for 3 calls.
Mm-hmm.
And Stacy, you had a hand. I apologize.
Yeah, I was just listening to Lewis, and again, I'm not 100% up on Lewis's type of business, but if he's finding not enough time in the day, what about doing like a coffee and a clock, or a burrito and a breakfast chat with a couple people, or seeing if
That's a
you
great
could
idea.
do a small intimate group, around a Dunkin' Donuts table, Starbucks if you'd like, but it was just a thought.
I think that's a great idea. Lewis, what do you think of hosting a virtual? with a couple people.
Oh, I meant in person as well.
Oh, okay. Well, I
In
mean,
person.
but if you
If
had,
they-
but if you had in person with a couple of people, or if you had
Yeah.
a virtual with a couple of people, it would potentially set you up to be that thought leader. Or are you connecting with people more on a personal basis? Because that's one thing about you, Lewis. They love you, right? They want you. They're gonna be
Why?
vampires, and they want you specifically, right?
Yeah, I mean, right now, they're mostly like one-to-ones of people that I've met through BNI or the chamber. But I like the idea of doing a small group, because then it could be like a one-to-one to one-to-one. And, you know, the people who show up, I think, will be attracted to that, because they're getting more bang for the buck. And we all have a tendency to meet at the same places anyway, like, so no, I think that's a terrific idea. Something, you know, in the coming weeks, it kind of makes more sense as I get to know these people. I can bring in people that I've met before, and then, you know, it becomes like our office hours, like this group.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's something that I also wanted to chat with, right? There's two types of goals, and there's two things that we work on here. You've got performance goals and you've got mastery goals. And if you were going to talk about what we do for TechSellerate specifically, you've got Monday is sort of your mastery goal, right? It's the conversations we're having right now. It's how to master your skill, hone your craft, block out your day, make sure obviously my focus is getting your revenue up. But if you don't have the basics done, you're never going to get to the performance goals. So my focus for you always, every Monday, is let's give you something that you can work on. And like I said, even if you take one nugget from it and it helps to streamline your process and it helps to get you to the next step, that's what I want. On Thursday, you've got mastery, because we're tightening it up. We're making sure that the next steps are defined. We're making sure that, your deals are in there the right way, that you're updating your CRM, that you're doing the tactical, and that's performance, right? And then the mastery is this. So when you're talking about what you provide, how do you separate your goals? How do you look at what's in mastery and what's in performance? And Lewis, you're raising your hand.
What? Oh, I did raise my hand, but I had a different question.
That's okay.
This has to do with the CRM. Anyway, so I'm using high level per your recommendation.
Yep.
And I actually sent out my first campaign to 99. I went through all the cards that I got at these various networking events and BNI meetings, and I sent out an email. Got a couple responses, and I mean I know you have to stay on it. The question though for me is that it doesn't, like, when people respond to the emails, it goes into high level, but like I'm not getting any kind of synchronization with,
like, a notification to your email.
With Outlook. And I mean, maybe there's a setting there, but I'm also wondering, is there a more sort of a Microsoft centric CRM that would make sense? Or
no, you have to link up your email, which I know that you already linked up your email. No CRM is going to be, unless you were using Microsoft Dynamics, which don't use Microsoft Dynamics, because but even then it's just a built-in sync or a built-in notification. So the one that you chose, you can actually go in and have notifications sent in. You also can program it for any email that goes to that person out of your Outlook to go into your CRM. Same back and forth. So it'll automatically sync, and then every conversation that has to do with that person and that deal will go into that CRM. So that's one of the features that they have. So I would absolutely take an advantage of that.
Okay, so I would enable that within high level.
Yep. Yep. There's also there's a couple of third-party apps where I was using this with my Outlook when I was with Salesforce and HubSpot. A while ago, I was using Cirrus and Cirrus Insights that you can just put in as a third-party app inside of your email. And if it has to do with a deal or if it has to do with an account, it'll go straight in. So it's another tool that you can use, but I don't think you actually need it with the one that you have, because you can just optimize it for internally inside of your CRM.
Okay. And you know, I don't want to get too hung up on the CRM, but at the same time, you know, I don't want to be short-sighted. Like like it works great for right now. I want to make sure that like a year from now it is still going to make sense. And you know, if I had to change to something else, you know, better do it now than a year in. But
I think for where you are and what you do, I think you are well suited to the one you have right now. And you'll be just fine. It's easily scaled. When we're talking SDRs, we're talking basic sales, and we're talking about retiring and recognizing revenue and even processing payments. You can do it all inside of that. So I think you're fine. I don't think you are, and correct me if I'm wrong, keep me honest, but I don't think you're ever going to be at a point where you've got 27 sales reps that you have to track their performance inside of that one app. And if you do, I will eat my words, I'll eat crow, whatever you want me to do, and we'll swap you over to HubSpot.
well, no, I think that'll be my successor's problem.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He can or she can transfer you over to HubSpot. I think you'll be fine with what you have right now. And honestly, it'll grow with you.
Are you saying that HubSpot's more sophisticated than the high level, or vice versa? Or
So
I missed the high level because we're using HubSpot, but you know, it's doing okay, but nothing amazing. I don't think we're using the full capacity of it either. But.
Yeah, you're definitely not using full capacity based on the conversations that we've had. So there are different CRMs that are more appropriate for different teams. I think you're right on for having HubSpot for your team. I think you as a CEO, as your knowledge of the sale from a sophistication approach expands, I think you're going to want more analytics, and you're going to want to start tracking and forecasting, specifically because you've got your guy. Okay, did he do his hour of calling? You've got Sierra. Did she process this right? And is she documenting it correctly? And did she close win this? And how did it process through? You're looking at different things. You know, Brian, I know you're using Odoo, correct? Oh, do we have him? I can't hear you. You're on mute, Brian.
Yes, sorry, I thought I was not on mute.
You're on mute. It's okay. It's ever since COVID, I swear.
Was it Odoo? I've never used that before. I've used HubSpot and Salesforce, so this is an interesting transition. But yes, that's what we're using.
Yeah. You know, if it were me, and I'll just be totally honest, I would not recommend Odoo. I don't think it has the
Not my favorite.
No, I don't think it has the capabilities that you guys need. But it's what you have. So there are things that you can do to optimize it. And so we can have a separate conversation of how you, as a salesperson that has used HubSpot, how you can do what you need to do and keep your sanity, right? So you're going to have to add a cadence and a couple of flows, but I'll
reach out to you this week too. We can do that. I tried last week, but then it got crazy and I kept missing you. So I'll reach out to you.
Can you make it to the office hours?
Usually one of them.
You don't have to make it. It's only available just because you guys might need it. We are, just to let you guys know, and this is just housekeeping, but just to let you guys know, the platform, for some reason, some people can add, some people can't. Right now, I don't want to mess with it, so we're just going to open Discord. So we'll have a Discord channel starting this coming week that you'll be invited to chat. So it should be much easier to get our attention throughout the week as well. So you'll have that available to you as well. But it's, you know, and for Steven, he is on a proprietary CRM that I have been pulling him towards the HubSpot conversation, right? So he's almost there. He's not there yet, but he's almost there. but I do want you guys to have a conversation. I'm going to pull it back a little bit about the types of goals that you're setting and the types of conversations you're having and being intentional. I think what I'm getting out of this is a lot more focus on the basics. And I think we have our homework, and I'm actually, because we're recording this, I'm actually going to just document it so that I know what my deliverables for you are. Is we're going to have the template of calendar blocking. Some just sort of an example so you see it. We're going to have the daily task template just so you can keep yourself organized. And then we're going to need to basically have a Venn diagram of how you can prioritize, because I think you guys all, and again, keep me honest, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what I'm hearing from all of you is that you're getting pulled and you don't know necessarily where to prioritize. Is that kind of an accurate statement?
Oh, yeah.
Brian, what about you?
Oh yeah, I've got Kevin goes in a lot of different directions, so it's an interesting process right now. Because now I'm delving into the sales side now that I've gotten the technical side with him covered, and interesting conversations last week. So, and I'll do some one-on-ones. I'd like to do some one-on-ones with you later, Alex. Later this week, so that you and I could discuss the things that Kevin and I discussed and talk about ideas.
Absolutely. And it's things that would be perfect on Discord and our office hours, because I guarantee if you're dealing with it, somebody else on this team is dealing with it too. And it's good if we can work through those things together. Hey, he's there. So that we can actually work through it and we can all benefit, right? Sometimes and I'm putting the CEOs and presidents on blast here because I'm just as guilty of it as everybody else. So I am not out of this. Sometimes it's the CEO's whims that will then change your trajectory of your day. And you could be totally organized, thinking that you're like, I got this nailed, walk in and you think your whole day is planned. And then, oh crap, we're doing this, right? And when the CEO says, hey, we're doing this, how do you then professionally say, okay, here's what I had planned today. Where on the list of priorities does this new thing stand? And do you want me to shift? And to my CEOs and presidents in this group, you got to do the same thing for yourself, right? So, okay, you have this great new shiny object. You've got a great idea. I mean, like, look at TechSellerate, guys. We spun this up and I think you guys are getting a little bit out of it, and that's great. But when I came up with this, the whole team had to shift and they go, oh, shoot, what does she want us to do now? Right. So we all have to be very cognizant of understanding where this goes or where the new project goes in the list of priorities of things that we already have going on. Hence why we are setting performance and mastery goals. Like how I brought that back.
My CEO is a totally disorganized maniac.
I heard that about him. He's crazy.
You have my you have my CEO to fix that, so you're good.
So,
and I was guilty of it just before this phone call, but it was legitimate that, like, we had this call literally in the middle of my sales meeting, and it's a big opportunity. Well, we already have the opportunity, but it's another conversation. We have the opportunity. It's already supposedly sold, but it's a federal contract that it's a long story. Anyways, but so basically we had to divert. We had to completely divert because they want to take care of things in 2 days. And so we've got to, get some things together for that in 2 days to make sure that they start doing the work with us that they're supposed to be doing. To make a very long story short.
Oh man. Okay.
So I was guilty of it. I'm like literally in the middle of our meeting, I was like, oh my goodness, this is a large, this is, large, and we have to do this instead of working on the smaller things that we have right here that we need to work on. So yeah, for sure. You nailed it.
And it happens. It's, listen, there, no hate, no shade, no shame. No, it is what it is. It's your day to day, but understanding where you need to put your focus, that's number one, right? So what I want you guys to do, there's 4 things. I want you all to write this down. I want you to write down your focus, your emphasis, your approach, and the feedback. And this is all public out there. So you can actually, you can look this up under performance versus mastery goals. If you want to go Google it, you can. Okay. So on the focus, Your performance goals are focused on achieving specific outcomes or results. And the mastery or your fine tuning in your approach, right, is how to get better at it, how to develop your skill and knowledge, how to get systematized approaches to maintaining those performance goals and to building them, right? Your emphasis. And the reason why we're going down this is because I want you guys to really take a look at what you're setting for yourself for the week. And then in that time, we will go back and then we will present to you the samples that you're asking for. So, but for us to do that, I need you guys to really focus in on the assignment itself, and then you can utilize what we put out there. So your emphasis, right? So you've got your performance goals. Those are going to emphasize the competition and comparison between where you were and where you're going, as well as where you are to others. So Lewis,
Yes.
you are providing cloud services in an area where you don't really have a whole lot of competition. You found quite a bit of complementary, which is great, but you
Yeah.
haven't found a ton of competition. So it's going to be harder for you to measure against people, but you can absolutely measure against where you were and where you need to be. And then setting your goals specifically, I think is going to be very, very important. So you get to where you need to be on a monthly basis, just from a financial standpoint, right? So that would be
Right.
the performance goal I would look at. And then the mastery goal would be your growth and improvement. So maybe understanding that, yeah, people want your time, but maybe we do a group of 5 as opposed to meeting all 5 of those people, because that's, 5 hours plus travel versus 1 hour. Then you've got your approach, and the performance goals tend to be those are your results oriented, your outcome related issues, right? You set your quota, you set your target, you go for it, you measure it against, right?
Yeah.
And then mastery, rolling it back to the CRM, it's going to be process oriented. It's fine tuning the process, making sure it's streamlined, continual improvement, and setting those. And then your feedback is this specifically for you, Brian. This is going to be a challenge. Okay. The feedback loop on your performance goal. This is when you're going to have to put it, like for Lewis and Pam, it's really easy. And for Steven, it's really easy because they can just look at their numbers, right? And this is how you can say, okay, was I successful? Was I not? For you, it's not only was I successful on the numbers. Now you can always go to him and say, hey, I was successful on the numbers, but let's be honest, I do girl math and I can make the numbers look however I want them to look, right? But you're going to have numbers that are going to tell him how you did. And then he's going to have a very different viewpoint on how you did based on what his expectations are, which is one of the reasons why I really wanted you guys to set your goals and your outcomes, right? And then from a mastery perspective, what we want to do is we want to basically understand our own personal growth goals and our own calendar blocking systems and understanding how to master the sale and master the cycle. Is all of this kind of making sense? And I know this sounds, it sounds a little pedantic, and I understand that I'm asking you to go to basics, but I think it's really important because I see you guys getting pulled and stretched. And so this is my attempt to level.
Yeah, I just, I was trying to take notes, and like I started with, you said there were 4 things and I wrote them down, and then it kind of devolved.
So focus, emphasis, approach, and feedback.
Yeah.
You just need to see that when we're setting performance goals and mastery goals, how you're going to approach each one. That's all this is.
Okay.
So in your focus, how are you focusing on performance? How are you focusing on mastery? Because those goals, you also get to prioritize where you need to start, right? Where do you need to focus? Right now, for me, if I were you, Lewis, I'd be looking at performance, less mastery, a little bit. I mean, listen, this 1 meeting per week, that's enough mastery for you. Because right now you're just in reframe mode. You're rebuilding the website. We have content for you, by the way, for first round. You've got rebuilding the website. You've got a new geographic location. You've got all these things to do, tactical things to do. That's your goal. That's your focus. And then
Okay.
the mastery comes, right? So it's where you're prioritizing the time.
Okay, so those are all performance goals. The mastery goals would be not think about it right now.
Not necessarily not think about it right now. Keep it on your purview, right?
Yeah.
And if you have an extra 10 minutes, focus to that. But the performance is really where I would put the priority right now, because you need the performance and the response. You're great at acting on things, right? The fact that you just got your newsletter out and you're already getting responses.
Mhm.
And then because I know how your head works, right? And you're like, okay, how do I streamline this? That's great. So now we're going to connect Microsoft to your CRM, but that's tactical. And
Right.
that's your performance. Like, I need to see this. Here's how I measure it. Here's how I implement. For me, the next thing on mastery would be, okay, here's how you build the funnel to actually automate this a little bit more. Right. But right now you just need to be in that tactical approach.
Right. Okay.
Make a little bit more sense. Clear as mud.
Oh, and yeah.
Okay.
No, you know what? Way more clear than mud.
Okay.
Yeah. It's no, the mud, leave the mud to me.
Well, and then so that's what I also wanted to take your the last 7 minutes. And this is not this is not putting on anybody on blast, but if anybody wants to talk about it, please do. Setting goals that build on your own strengths. You don't necessarily have to focus on your weaknesses. You don't have to focus on what you're needing to improve on. I mean, yes, you do want to improve on things. And yes, when sales manager hat is on, I'm looking to take C players to a B player and B players to an A player. That's all I'm looking at from a revenue producing perspective. But for individuals, if I'm talking to you guys as individuals, not as sales numbers and sell, right? Look at what you do really well. Look at where the emphasis needs to go. Look at why you are as successful as you are, and let's expand on that. So if you have a goal of XYZ amount of dollars, what got you to ABC may not be the same thing that's going to get you to XYZ, but I guarantee it's a derivative of it.
For me, it's because all my business has been word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I got to where I am because people like me, and then I earn their trust over time, and I'm responsive, right? And so, but it's kind of I have been resting on my laurels for a long time and just kind of floating along until I broke open the packet and started shaking up the soda pop. And but that's how I got. So I need to build on those strengths, that people trust me, right? And I'm personable, but apply it in a different situation where I'm not the fulfillment team.
Yep.
Right. I'm the one, I'm the opener.
Bingo. There it is right there. So right there, you're the opener. You're the guy that closes the deals. You're the relationship guy, and you have a team that executes. So what I would do is I would really, really, really drive that people know, like, and trust you in those relationships, and then get a real clean onboarding process. Like that's your focus right now, is how do you onboard people? How do you set the expectations? And how do you make your voice travel farther? If you can do those 3 things right there, you're going to hit your goals.
And then how do I do that in the absence of a team up here, where I'm putting my focus, and maybe I shouldn't be putting my focus up here. Maybe I should be thinking, I got some guys in LA. I got a guy who can do assessments for me there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I should at the very least be working in parallel there and here.
But you're also doing cloud. So
it could be anywhere.
It could be anywhere, right? It could be anywhere. So stop thinking necessarily geographic constraints.
Well, that's big.
It is big.
Yeah,
Go big or go home, man.
The nation or
no, I
the
mean,
world is
that's-
your oyster.
yeah, no, you just blew my mind.
I'm in Florida. Not one of you is in Florida, which kind of pisses me off because I actually have somebody in Florida that should be on here right now, and I'll have that conversation with him later. But
I know we have a lot of out-of-state people now, and more than ever. You know, it's one of those things that definitely the pandemic, you know, threw out there. So there's no reason why not.
now if you need somebody with boots on the ground, that's another conversation. But there are knock services, there's Field Nation, there's a whole lot of ways that we can take care of that, and that's a whole nother conversation. And
I would love to have that conversation some more, because that's one of our things too, because I know I've given too much business away.
yes, you
I-
have, and
Oh.
that's one of the reasons why we need a meeting, ma'am.
Yes.
Oh, and
yes.
Pam,
Yes.
so if you're looking for boots on the ground and if you're looking for somebody who has used Field Nation, that's like my team, they're all Field Nation guys.
Okay, we should talk some more, Louis.
Yeah.
See what happens here when you guys network? This makes me happy. Okay, so we have 2 minutes. Lay it on me. Anybody else have anything else? I know I gave you a ton to do today, but I feel like it was a necessary conversation.
Just one last thing. I know we don't have time for it today, but I want to, either in office hours, is talking about the processes, or
Mhm.
actually not really processes. I mean, we know we need processes, but like the overlap, because I do have a couple people, and we're trying to figure out a way not to overlap. So trying to,
How so with overlap?
because you know, we all do a lot of different things. We're all multitasking, but we're trying to really segment to go, okay, this is your account, because none of us are true. It's not a true sales department in the true sense of the word.
Correct.
But we're all doing different things. So, you know, like for instance, Sierra, none of them are true salespeople. So, but they're all pitching in, but we're trying to segment everybody like, okay, this is your account, and then I'll do the other parts of it. But we're trying to figure that out. Maybe that's for a one-to-one, but office hours might be the other place, because we really have
Office hours would be perfect for that, because Nick and Stacy both know when I tell them that if it didn't happen in HubSpot,
It didn't happen.
It didn't happen, right? So if it didn't happen in HubSpot, it didn't happen. And then we also utilize a project management software.
Which one?
There's a couple out there. Asana's okay. ClickUp is very good. Monday is very good. We are using Coda, which I adore Coda. But we've
been using Asana, and with some success, but not total. Again, some of that's back on me.
It's not so much on the tool that you use, it's how you use the tool,
Right.
is what I'm finding.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So we'll do an office hour on that. And then actually Suzanne on our team is already planning on doing a mini course on it. And so some of the videos, now I'm not going to make you wait for it because you're in beta, but if you ever need to revisit it, or if you need expansion on it, that would be a good one.
Alex, I have to take off. I have a 3 o'clock. So
Us too.
I'll reach out to you tomorrow. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye,
I
guys.
hope to see you tomorrow, or I'll have one of us on tomorrow. And Louis, we should talk. We'll figure out a time.
Let's
Pam.
do it.
Bye,
Pam,
guys.
can you stay on for a quick minute?
Who? I'm
Pam,
sorry.
yes. Pam, yes,
Tammy?
you. Yes, you.
Okay. Yes, I can see on.
Okay, thank you. I just had a quick question, which I called you about, and I didn't mean to interrupt your call on Friday at all. I apologize.
No, it was just a crazy Friday. What is Steven's autopilot? Is that the?
Oh, no, you know what? Let me call you back.
Okay.
I'll call you right back. I'll
Okay.
just call you on the offline.
Okay.